Welcome back to The Big Show. It's the show where we like to talk to different people and big stars and unique talents and odd people as well. Tim Minchin, how are you?
Oh, good. I'm all of them, I imagine.
Let's start with our thing that we have in common, which is our affliction. Not great, is it?
No, and not very good radio either, because it's very much a physical affliction.
Ginger hair. How did you deal with it? You've turned it into something positive and become a big star. I've just become introverted and really a nasty person inside.
Yeah, well, most people do. Luckily, I'm not very ginger, so I've been able to break out of that bitterness that most of you guys, we fall into. But yeah, I've translated it to income by writing a satirical anthem as a tribute. Yeah.
You say you're not very ginger, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how ginger are you and how ginger am I?
You're pretty ginger. You're not crazy ginger, but let me see your body hair.
There's not a lot of that.
No, well, right, you're just bald. So you're very lucky. You see, my gingerness doesn't really shine through until you catch me in the sun with no shirt on, and my body hair suddenly, I look like some sort of angel with this sort of emitting a golden glow. I refer to myself as a pubic ginge. My gingerness is hidden. It's a deep, dark secret, but it allows me to assimilate when I want to, you know.
Let's talk about you then. For those who don't know, you come from Down Under. About 5 years ago, you became a big star. Why here? I mean, you've moved here now. You've made this your home. Why didn't you stay in Australia?
It's pretty boring kind of economics, really. I mean, there's not many people just doing live comedy and surviving in Australia. If you want to be a comedian in Australia, you need to get a radio show or be on telly and stuff, and my particular sense of humour doesn't necessarily suit, 7 p.m. on a Saturday night. So when I first came to Edinburgh and I got a really good reaction, we didn't really hesitate. It's just we've never been particularly worried. When I say we, my partner and I, we've never been particularly worried about where we live. We left Perth years ago to move to Melbourne, and for people who know how wide Australia is, that once you've left Perth, the most isolated city in the world, you've kind of broken the back of travel, and so you could be anywhere once you've left Perth, because you're always going to be 3,000 miles from home, sort of thing, or 1,000 miles from home. So we just responded to the reaction, really, and now we spend a third of the time in Australia anyway, so we have the best of both worlds. But this tour I'm doing now, 45 dates at 45 venues in 2 months, I mean, that in Australia to do, there's only about sort of 10 theatres of this size in the country, and to get to them you have to get on a plane, so it's just not as easy or as dense or as interesting, and the population's not so comedy savvy either. Britain's amazing, and I'm noticing even since I've been here, it's getting kind of cooler for young people to go see comedy. It's just a cool thing to do,
Well, and it's interesting you use the word cool, because that really sums up your act. You've created something that could be really down market and really rubbish if it wasn't done so well, because a man and his piano trying to do comedy doesn't necessarily go together, does it?
Well, it's certainly that musical comedy gets a bit of flack because it can be very sort of bawdy, and as my stuff can be, but I have the advantage of I was never a comedian. I wasn't a comedian who picked up an instrument and went, "Oh, I'll give this a bash. If I rhyme boobs with jubes, I'll get a laugh." I do sing about boobs, but I don't rhyme it with anything. I was a muso for years and writing music for theatre and stuff. So I came to comedy with this whole kind of understanding of theatre and theatricality and kind of grandeur and nonsense. And I came with my grand piano, and I sort of I didn't realise that people thought musical comedy was crap. I didn't know anything about comedy. I just went, "Oh, do this," and people started laughing. And there's no doubt, I get the vibe that people who don't like musical comedy still like my show, because it's just a big nonsense concert, with some swearing and some analysis of critical thinking theory.
I'm curious to talk to you about whether you actually want to be here being a comedian, because I read your CV and it seems to me you wanted to be a proper actor or something decent, and not really just some touring comedian.
Yeah. To be honest, this is exactly what I want to be. I cannot think of a better thing to do, because I was an actor, or am, or was, or something, and I've played loads of different styles of music, and I've written loads of music for theatre, and really what I do now is exactly what I want. I've always written satirical lyrics, even when I was trying to be a normal rock band or a pop band. I always found myself not able to take myself very seriously, so I'd get a broken heart, but rather than I'd write a song called "Who's the Fella This Week, Bitch," rather than write a song called "Tears on My Pillow," you know. And so I'd always done that. I'm very happy on stage, you know, and reasonably relaxed, and I love playing. I love playing music, and so really it's weird. After 10 years of struggling, trying to break through as an actor, trying to break through as a composer, what gave me a career was just me doing exactly what I want to do. And I'm aware how lucky that is, because most people don't get to do exactly what they want to do for a living.
And you are a performer on stage. I mean, there is some acting involved, isn't there? You're not just a man who turns up in a clever suit and stands there and delivers lines and goes off.
Yeah, well, it's not... I mean, again, I didn't sort of have any awareness of what the rules of comedy were. And I didn't really make any conscious decisions about who I'd be on stage, but somehow I started wearing makeup and stuff again, because taking the mickey out of this idea of a wannabe rock star and stuff and all that, and suddenly I sort of had this character, and I didn't really make him deliberately, but he certainly allows me to do a whole lot of stuff that I wouldn't get away with if I was just talking about it, because he's kind of a bit wild-eyed and a bit stuttery. He's both very low status, a very sort of nervous kind of character, plus a complete megalomaniacal narcissist, you know, and that's fun, because we all are both those things, aren't we? But I'll just stretch them out and start taking his shoes off, and off we go, you know.
And what about the world of touring? I mean, you're doing these endless dates and then you go back down under to do it again. Is there any glamour or fun in being a touring comedian?
Well, I certainly don't think there's the glamour and fun that people suspect there might be. Although I think there can be. It depends what stage in your life you hit the touring scene. You know, I think if you're 22 or 23 and you get big and famous and you tour and you got loads of money, it can be glamorous and fun, even if it's horrific the next morning, you know. But I didn't really get any recognition till I was 30 and had a baby, and you know, so for me, touring is hard work, but it's great. I love walking into beautiful theatres and watching the set go up, and it's really good fun. But it's certainly not it's pathetic. I feel like my body is like a car that has to do a race every day, and every day you have to try and tinker with it to stop it breaking. Like today I've got a sore wrist, which is obviously a nightmare for a pianist. I've got a sore throat, you know, like every day it's like I wake up and go, what's wrong with me now? Yeah, it's weird, you know, it's only 2 hours work a night, but for some reason it kind of, you always hear so-and-so cancelled a concert because of this, and you always think, how pathetic, you know. Most of us have real jobs, but I've done all those jobs and nothing buggers you like this.
And of course there's a pressure, isn't there, with your show, because it's not just a man and a microphone, which most comedians are. It's a production, and then there's the makeup and the hair. Why do you go to so much effort?
Because when I didn't put in as much effort, no one paid to see me. Again, coming from a theatre background, I never, you know, especially coming to the UK, I now know that the 90s were the sort of era of the alternative comedian, and it was basically the crappier you looked. If you were slightly overweight, had a T-shirt and jeans on and a microphone and nothing else, then you were, and could still make people laugh, then that was comedy. And I came into it sort of showing off and razzle-dazzle, and you know, some of the early reviews were like self-indulgent piano playing and stuff, and I was like, but I'm a pianist. What else am I meant to do? You know, it's like saying self-indulgent juggling by that juggler, you know. But I just love, I love theatre, and I've always loved sort of everything from minimalist to mega theatre, and I just love making people walk out to the interval going, oh my God, do you see it when the pyros went off, you know, and then coming back and then totally underpinning that by playing something really dark. I love the journey you can send people on, and even in my shows I get people tearing up in my encore, not because I come out and do something really deep, but just because I switch it and do something a bit sort of sentimental or whatever. And I love seeing how far, you know, you don't just have to do one thing, and 2 hours is a long time. You know, if you look at great theatre, you should be able to manipulate people into having all sorts of different experiences of in terms of comedy, of cringing, of gasping, of laughing with recognition, of laughing at the absurdity of the fact that they don't recognise what you know, especially a character like mine. Sometimes I talk about stuff that it's not like, don't you hate it when you go to the bus stop? It's like, don't you hate it when people make the error of correlation versus causation when thinking about Mr. Whippy Men, you know, like, and people laugh because it's not something they've thought about. I guess I like the idea of just making it a big night out, you know, coming out the end feeling like you've had a big meal.
Is it liberating as well, knowing now people are at the stage where they're prepared to pay to come and see you, they're not coming to see somebody else and you happen to be on the bill, and therefore your 2 hours are your own and you're just liberated in the fact that you can do what the hell you like. In fact, if you wanted to do gymnastics on stage, you could do it, and you could probably make it funny.
Yeah, I could probably get away with it, and but I might not sell so many tickets the next year. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, of course. The higher your profile gets, the more control you have, but also the more people have a kind of more generic expectation. When I was playing to 200 or 300 people, those people tended to be connoisseurs. They were like, oh, this is this guy who does this, that and the other, and we know him and we feel a sense of ownership over him because no one's found out about him yet, and we go for exactly what he has to give us. Now it's like, oh, I saw him on the telly, let's get the whole family, and then I'm sitting there singing some song bashing religion or swearing a bit or whatever. I don't want people to get the impression that my show is kind of shocking for the sake of it, but I address lots of topics and songs about death and songs about sex and stuff. These are the things that obsess me, and of course a bigger audience means you're probably going to miss more people, and then your decision becomes, do I worry about that? Do I push further? Do I push people further because the audience is getting bigger, like you say, and therefore I should be able to do gymnastics or say what I want because I have power? Or do you succumb to the pressure of being more broad and go, well, I better make sure the 80-year-olds and the 12-year-olds in the audience aren't upset? And for me, that decision is very clear, which is why I don't do much telly and stuff, because I just want to, not that I want to keep, I'm not trying to do anything. All I want to do is talk about what I think about. And if that doesn't suit the telly, then I'll wait until I'm known well enough so they just go, okay, you can say that at 10.
Because you do sell out when you go on those quiz shows, because you have to temper it, because it's not going to get on. You could sit there doing your best material in the world, but it's going to be chopped out, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'd love to do more of those panel shows. I don't get invited very much. I think people really associate me with the piano and stuff, and they don't sort of see me. I'm perfectly capable of holding my own on a panel, I think. And I don't mind that, because I'm not someone that needs to be shocking all the time, and I'm perfectly happy to have a light-hearted chat about any topic. As you can tell, I don't know. My problem is shutting up, really. But in terms of like doing a show or a sketch show or being involved in someone else's sketch show, which is something I've seriously considered, or even writing a comedy drama or a sitcom like I have been working on. I've handed in, and the best bit's that you won't be able to do that, and even if I've got a bit in my sitcom pilot, which is this guy just doing this bizarre chat, talking to someone about about censorship, and ironically that bit wouldn't get in because the words he's discussing, it's hilarious.
I can imagine. And you've got this new DVD out. You had one last year as well. That makes it difficult because it means you can't do the same show next year, can you?
Yeah, although the DVD I'm putting out in the UK this year is the same DVD as last year, but with added extras. It's a re-release, and I'm not trying to fool anyone. It's very clearly special edition. It's because this year more people have got to know me. So Universal are very sensibly sort of saying, well, here it's still there, that DVD that no one bought last year. So it's kind of got all these added extras, and it's got a lyric book with all crap in it, and. It's good. I'm putting out the show I'm touring now. I'm putting out in Australia on DVD. Oh, it's ridiculous. But yeah, there's no doubt. It's like that show that's out on DVD now is on E4 a couple of weeks ago, and it's why I've sold so many tickets for this tour. But I've blown that show. It's very hard to do that material. Although with songs, of course, it's fine. People are very happy to hear songs twice. But the talk, once it's been on telly, is gone, and that's a very big thing for comedians. Working out how to time when to go, right, I've done that material as much as I'm going to do it, stick it on the telly, because once it's on the telly, it's dead. Can't do it anymore.
And then the pressure of coming up with something equally as funny or better still.
Yeah.
But how much pressure is that? Because it's not easy, is it?
I think it's heart-stoppingly horrific, really, except that I'm still new to comedy, so I have this little feeling that I hope I'm still... improving, and I hope I can keep doing better stuff. But the other thing I hope is that in Britain I'm known as a comedian, but what I've done over the last 10 years is composed and written non-comic albums and all this stuff. And I want a long interesting career, not a 5 years of being famous, get as much money as you can and get the hell out career. So I've just written a children's musical for the Royal Shakespeare Company, which will be on at the end of next year. I'm going to do an orchestra tour of Australia in 2011. I'm going to go live in LA for a few months next year. So actually, I'm not one of those comedians that goes, right, what's my 2010 show going to be? What's my 2011 show going to be? And I think some people might sort of go, oh, God, he's been touring this show forever. But I tour in 3 continents. So if I write a show, that's got a good couple of years in it because there's a lot of people to get to, you know. And I'll write my next comedy show when I feel like I've got enough new funny ideas rather than when the next Edinburgh Festival comes, because I've got all these other things I want to do anyway. So I feel very lucky about that I can take that pressure off myself a bit. But of course, you don't want to take the pressure off so much that you just sit around for 5 years or, you know, don't make anything. So the only way you get anything done is to give yourself a deadline. So when I feel brave enough, I'll just give myself a deadline and book myself into the Edinburgh Fringe again and go, okay, that's what I did with this show. I wrote it in 6 weeks because I had to.
It isn't usual, though, is it? There seems to be a thing now where everybody wants to merchandise, do the big arena tours. We see it all the time, and then bring the DVD out and then get out again because you want to do it while you can. It seems like people don't have great confidence in longevity anymore.
Yeah. And, yes, I think you're very right. And I don't know whether I'm a fool and whether I should be just making hay while the sun shines, because I am just a flash in the pan and it's just what people like this year, and maybe that's the case, and if that's the case, that's fine. You know, it can't get worse than it was 4 years ago, playing in cover bands in a pub, you know, so that's fine. And I totally respect people who do that, because the fact is the public is fickle, or at least insatiable. They'll always... And you know how the public... You remember what they did to Ricky after 4 years? That everyone just went, we hate him because he's too famous, and he wrote it out, and now we love him again, you know. And it happens to, you know, another great artist like Jordan. You know, everyone has their period in the snow.
I believe she's taking her orchestra down under next year as well.
Yeah, I think an orchestra tour. She's orchestrating it. It's an orchestra of plastic surgeons. I think I feel... Partly, I think I am confident because I do have this history of... I'm not a 21-year-old who made a break and then just doesn't have anything else. So I know I can do other stuff, and also I know I don't... I was just as happy before lots of people knew who I was, so I'm not scared of the winter of discontent. You know, I'm not scared that I'm going to suddenly be cast out.
You're not needy, that's what you're telling me.
Oh, God, I'm very needy. I wouldn't be in this job if I wasn't needy. But I'm needy in a kind of... I'd like to write a book one day. You know, I want a long, varied career, and I'm in a wonderful position now where people know my work, and because I haven't done stuff that's against what I do naturally, like do lots of telly and stuff, I'm still in a position where people know me for doing exactly what I bloody want to do. So my brand of stuff is intact and has a reasonably good reputation now amongst people who like this stuff. I'm sure there's an equal amount of people who hate it, but I think I should be able to. I just want to use this to make lots of different things, you know.
Are there any T-shirts or anything with "I love gingers" on that I can go and buy to make myself feel better? Maybe front of house for $18.99.
I did $28.99. I did think of doing a T-shirt with that line, only a ginger. But the reason I'm not saying the whole line is because the T-shirt gives away the joke. So because that song I do, it has this huge long setup where people's brains have to be going in a different direction. So even talking about gingerness on the show sort of gives it away a bit. But so you don't want to make merchandise that gives your jokes away, you know. It's like Jimmy Carr putting his punchlines on the back of a shirt, you know.
No, he just sells them to anybody who's willing to listen. Congratulations on being you. It's nice that everybody's behind you right now. I mean, I notice Chris Moores keeps banging the drum of Tim Minchin and everything, and that's nice because you need some positive endorsement or people won't come. Yeah,
I this year's been very strange. It's just suddenly, I guess it is the telly thing a few weeks ago, but, you know, things just hit a critical mass. It's gone very quickly for me, mind you, from the beginning of my comedy career to now. But at the same time, I have been touring for a couple of years, and it's just exponential mathematics, isn't it? Eventually, you've got 1,000 people who know you and they tell 3 people each, and suddenly you're getting into real numbers, and it's very exciting, and we're having a great time, and suddenly I've got 5 crew and massive lights and all this nonsense. So I'm still not making any money, but no, we're having a really good time, and I'm it's a long bloody tour, so I'm just going to try and keep my motor running.
Have you made it to the point yet where you've reached the top end of show business, where you can afford a smoke machine?
Well, see, I was very ostentatious. There's 2 things I did at the beginning of my career that helped me make my career, and neither of them I had a right to demand. But very early on in my career, I said, I'm not going to do a show without a grand piano, and I'm not going to do a show without a smoke machine.
Congratulations to you. I'm so proud.
I know. Honestly, I'm actually tearing up. And a wind machine as well.
Congratulations, and thank you very much for bringing something new to comedy. I think we've got a bit sick of the Jimmy Carr-esque, I'm so clever and more intelligent than you, I'm going to stand here and do my jokes at you. In fact, I saw him in Montreal just a few weeks ago with a clipboard, which I thought was a new way of doing comedy.
Oh, but I see, Jimmy gets away with it. But and a lot of my comedy is slightly inaccessible too, but I make it accessible by pointing funny lights at it.
If you haven't seen you and you've got an open mind and you don't mind the odd swear word every now and again, it's clever and it's different and it's new, and Tim Minchin's your man for the DVD at Christmas. And thank you very much for talking to us.
Thanks so much. Hello, everybody. Bye.